Good day to all of you. In this video, we will talk about the special senses and their major functions. The five senses are the five main tools that humans use to perceive the world. Those senses are sight, smell, hearing, taste, and touch. We see with our eyes. We smell with our noses. We listen with our ears, we taste with our tongue, and we touch with our skin. Our brain receives signals from each of these organs and interprets them to give us a sense of what's happening around us. Specialized cells and tissues within these organs receive raw stimuli and translate them into signals the nervous system can use. Nerves relay the signals to the brain, which interprets them as sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. First is the sense of sight. The eyes obviously allow us to see, but if you break it down, they do more than just that. Using our eyes, we can judge depth, interpret new information, and identify color, like the wavelengths of light that reflects off surfaces. How so? Well, the eyes sits in the orbits of the skull, there as I am pointing in the picture, protected by the bone and fat. The white part of the eye is the sclera. It protects interior structures and surrounds a circular portal formed by the cornea, iris, and pupil. Okay, notice the picture on the screen. The cornea is transparent to allow light to enter the eye and curved to direct it through the pupil behind it. The pupil is actually an opening in the colored disc of the iris. The iris dilates or constricts, adjusting how much light passes through the pupil and onto the lens. The curved lens then focuses the image onto the retina, here, the eye's interior layer. So the retina is a delicate membrane of nervous tissue containing photoreceptor cells. These cells, the rods and the cones, translate light into nervous signals. The rods are more sensitive to light and motion, while cones are more sensitive to colors and details. The optic nerve then carries the signals from the eye to the brain, which interprets them to form visual images. So that's how eyes work. Next, let's move on to the sense of hearing. Ears allow us to hear sound, to detect vibrations in the air particles around us. But the inner ear also helps us maintain balance and regulate sinus pressure. This is especially useful when you change altitude, like for example when you are flying in an airplane or you're going up on the mountain. The outer ear funnels the waves down the ear canal. It's also known as the external acoustic meatus, to the tympanic membrane or the eardrum, this one here. The sound waves beat against the tympanic membrane or the eardrum, creating mechanical vibrations in the membrane. The tympanic membrane then transfers these vibrations to three small bones known as auditory ossicles. The ossicles are here, found in the air-filled cavity of the middle ear. These bones, the malleus, incus, and stapes, carry the vibrations and knock against the opening to the inner ear. The inner ear consists of fluid-filled canals, including the spiral-shaped cochlea. As the ossicles pound away, specialized hair cells in the cochlea detect pressure waves in the fluid. They then activate nervous receptors, sending signals through the cochlear nerve, or the auditory nerve, towards the brain, which interprets the signals as sounds. Let's move on to the sense of smell. Noses are used to smell scents. They get a sense for what particles are traveling through the air, which can help us identify if dangerous chemicals are nearby. Smell also has the strongest connection to memory. A familiar smell can remind us of things long forgotten. The olfactory cells tend to line to the top of the nasal cavity. On one end, olfactory cells have cilia, or the hair, that project into the nasal cavity, and on the other end of the cell are the olfactory nerve fibers. As one breathes in, the air enters into the nasal cavity. The olfactory cells are the chemoreceptors, which means that the olfactory cells have protein receptors that can detect subtle differences in chemicals. These chemicals bind to the cilia, which conducts a nerve impulse that is carried to the brain. The brain then translates these impulses into a meaningful smell. During a cold, the body produces mucus, which blocks the sense of smell. This is the reason why the food we eat tastes bland during a cold. Let's move on to the sense of taste. Tongues are used to taste foods, allowing us to figure out if something is going to be useful to our bodies or poisonous. They also allow us to sense hot and cold in food and liquids. Tongues help us to enjoy our foods. What are those small bumps on the top of the tongue? They are called papillae. Many of them, including circumvallate papillae and the fungiform papillae, contain taste buds. When we eat, chemicals from food enter the papillae and reach the taste buds. These chemicals, or tastants, stimulate specialized gustatory cells inside the taste buds, activating nervous receptors. The receptors then send signals to the fibers of the facial, glossopharyngeal, and vagus nerves. Those nerves carry the signals to the medulla oblongata, which then relays them to the thalamus and cerebral cortex of the brain. Next is the sense of touch. Last of all is the skin, which is responsible for what may be the most important senses in the human body. The skin performs a huge number of functions. These include perspiration or sweating to cool the body, protection from the elements, sensing what's in contact with our bodies, communication with other human beings through touch, storage of water and lipids, formation of vitamin D from the sun, water resistance, and heat regulation. So skin is the largest organ of our body. It is related to the sense of touch. The sense of touch is also referred to as tactioception. The skin contains general receptors which can detect touch, pain, pressure, and temperature. They are present throughout the skin. Skin receptors generate an impulse, and when activated, is carried to the spinal cord and then to the brain. With the help of these five senses, humans experience their environment. They do this by reacting to stimuli that reach the brain via the nervous system. And with these senses of sight, taste, hearing, touch, and smell, one cannot help but truly appreciate everything around them. So that's all for today's video. Thank you for watching.